Show with Arnie Filko and Carey Grant.
All right, good evening, New Orleans. Hope
Good
everybody
evening.
is doing well on this beautiful Tuesday in the month of April.
Yes.
I'm Arnie Filko.
And I'm Carey Grant, the real Carey Grant.
The real Carey Grant, and we are both in studio tonight, broadcasting from the beautiful campuses of Xavier University of Louisiana here in the city of New Orleans. Carey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Great weekend. Spent some time out at the French Quarter Festival, and unfortunately, the incident that happened later on in the evening. But during the day, Arnie, I have to tell you, the crowd was so relaxed and laid back. It was great. It was wonderful. The weather was perfect. You know, only thing I say about the French Quarter Festival, and one reason why I like it more than Jazz Fest as well, is because it has shade in different places, so you can actually sit under a tree.
It's true. That's true.
And that really makes a
we
difference.
were over there Sunday.
Yeah.
We left literally an hour before, the tragic of the shooting occurred.
Yeah.
But we spent about like 3 hours. We started at the 400 block of Royal.
Right.
They set up little stages.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Yeah.
There was shade. It was really
you can
nice.
stand under the awnings. You can go inside. You can go to inside restaurants. The beauty of that thing is you can go to stores, restaurants. You're not limited to whatever you want to do. And the artists were. I hope it was what I saw, but people were buying paintings and getting drawings.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
it really was great.
People were out and about. They were going in and out of stores. You know, bathrooms were open,
Right.
which was
which
nice
is
thing. It doesn't always occur.
A different kind of hook, but a great hook.
Yeah. So it was really, really great. And kudos to all of the organizers. French Quarter Festival has come such a long way.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember when it started. I think I was on council, I believe.
Yeah.
And to see what it is today to what it was, 15, 20 years ago is just amazing.
It over that span, like you talk about, it was from before that, but it's grown a lot since then. It was a very small thing before. But to be the largest free festival in the South is incredible, and it is free. I mean,
Everything's
is free.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the vendors make the money, and that's a wonderful thing. The French Quarter people put on the acts and the like and everything, and they foot the bill for that nonprofit, and it's great. It's just great.
And I think the beauty of it is that every genre of music is covered.
Absolutely.
And you could see bigger acts, you could see smaller groups,
Yes.
and they're all good. I mean, that's the thing about New Orleans is just you walk on Bourbon, you go walk on Royal, on Charters, then you go on Decatur to some of the bigger states.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something for everybody.
Absolutely.
And it's just all free for 4 days. It's amazing.
And what it shows you too, and what I'll say even more so than what you said is very true, is it shows you how we can use our riverfront too, because the stages out at the riverfront and the way that whole tie into the aquarium and everything is right there, and the moonwalk is incredible. It's just an incredible space. People are just out there in their chairs, and they're just having a great time with their families.
It's only going to get better in the coming years because,
they're going to
there's an effort to open the riverfront
and
now.
I was kind of going that way because as you go further the other way down the river, you can have more events going that way.
Right.
And I think that will be just make it into a bigger event. It's fabulously.
Right. And a bold prediction here. 25 years from now, you're going to see the Algiers Point area, and Algiers have some of the same stuff. You're going to have, there's things that happen on the riverfront, but not as much as the East Bank.
Right.
I think you're going to see down the road, entertainment and music and festivals, because look,
I agree.
It's easy to get there. It's, I love taking the ferry across. I feel like I'm in another country when I do that.
I had some friends who, as I said on another show, who just recently moved back to New Orleans, and they literally rode the ferry the other day, just to see what it was all about. But you're right, and the one thing that the Algiers Point and everything has over in New Orleans is they have the skyline view. I mean, they have one of the best views.
That's true. Yeah.
It's beautiful from that side of the river.
That's true.
So it's really, you're right, and they have a lot of space to do a lot over there.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we get a break for 9 days, but 9 days from now, Jazz Fest opens first weekend on local Thursday, which is, I think, one of the best days of Jazz Fest. It's half price. And A lot of good acts still. Maybe not as many national acts as, you know.
It's more of a local
Saturday.
flavor,
It
period.
is.
I mean, and I think that's a good thing for the Jazz Fest to do. I think that they were kind of pricing some people out of the whole thing who like that festival. And I think this is good because the prices are better. And like you said, and there's always been a complaint about it's not as much local acts and that type of thing. I never got that impression, but this is strictly kind of focused on that. And I think that's really good.
Yeah,
too.
no, like people are excited already. I'm excited. You know, 2 weekends of great music and fun. And,
Yes.
you know, the only bad thing, Carey, you understand it because Carey and his wife were with us Saturday night for
Yes.
Our Passover Seder dinner.
Which was wonderful.
As a Jewish person, 8 days I can't eat bread or bread. So to go to French Quarter Fest on Sunday, it was like my wife and I were at every booth. Well, we can't eat that. We can't eat it, and it was like killing us. But 9 days from now in Jazz Fest, it'll be over, and we'll be eating crawfish Monica and crawfish bread and everything else that we love.
I wanted to, and I'm glad you brought up the Seder dinner. It was a wonderful event and great people, great friendship, great family. Your family was wonderful. It was great for us to be there. And one thing that I noticed about it, Arnie, I'm telling you this on the air, but it's really true. It's very interesting to me how, like you said during the dinner, that a lot of things are related. We have a lot of traditions that are the same that we don't realize. I mean, eating the bread, that's part of, I'm a Catholic. So, I mean, there's things that literally say the same things, mean the same things, the same feeling. You know, our family's big on Christmas, and our Christmas celebration is very much like what you did at your house. We have a lot of people over, a lot of family and friends, and you know, it's really that kind of real tight knit event. And I think that was really, really nice, and I appreciate that you guys included us.
No, thank you. It's one of our traditions in our family going back a long time, that really the Passover holiday, the Seder that they call it, which is the first night, is a time to welcome, newcomers.
Yeah.
You know, people that aren't of the faith, that we could tell the story. Because in many ways, you know, the Passover and Easter have such commonality to it.
Absolutely.
And we all study the Old Testament. It comes from that book of Exodus. And so it was our honor to have you guys there and some of the other folks, and to be able to talk about family and tradition and retell the story, you know, which is what we do every year, is retell the story, the story of escaping from slavery in Egypt.
And I think the best part was to hear that they're also, you had some people there from the Jewish Federation, and to hear that they're doing these types of things at Dillard, particularly with, and they're making a Seder dinner that's really related to what young Black people will really enjoy about the Black diaspora and things that happen there, and the similarities and everything. And I think that will be a great event.
Yeah, absolutely. Look for that in June, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, lots of good things happening. Look, we've talked about this in our show many times. Given the world we're in today, given some of the craziness of the world we're in today in our own country, it's just so important that our African American and our Jewish and our Hispanic communities, our Vietnamese community, that we stand together.
Absolutely.
You know, there was a great story over the weekend in the Advocate. This is the 50th anniversary of the Vietnamese American community coming to New Orleans. You know, with the fall of Saigon.
Right.
And first of all, a great story, number one, and two, what wonderful contributions the Vietnamese American community have made to our community.
And there's such a tight-knit, strong group that has been very helpful and an anchor literally out in the East. I mean, since they got here, they have established themselves, their kids going to school, everything. It's been a wonderful addition to that whole immigrant side of New Orleans, because New Orleans is truly a city made up of immigrants and people who weren't indigenous to Louisiana.
And it was not easy back then. There were some great photos. I'm looking, Carey, I'm showing you there was a photo from 50 years ago about a bus coming from Arkansas to New Orleans with some of the refugees.
Right.
And, these folks came with literally nothing. I mean, they escaped a
Right.
war with
Right.
with North Vietnam. They came to America, and they ended up in our part of the world because of the temperature, first of all,
The
was similar,
similarities.
and
Yeah.
also kind of
Yeah.
some of the economy, shrimping industry, fishing
Yes.
industry.
Very
But
similar to where they're from. I worked with a lot of people, went to school with people who from their community, and it's exactly what you said. They found a lot of things here that reminded them of home.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it really brought back some interesting memories. One of the biggest issues after Katrina was the issue of where do you put some of the debris.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
was a big issue of the landfills, and obviously nobody wants a landfill next to their home.
Right.
But there was some dumping in one of the landfills in New Orleans East, and it became a large political issue. And I have to tell you, I'm very proud of the fact that I took a very strong stand in support of the Vietnamese American community. That you had to do it a different way. This was not the way to do it, and ultimately that prevailed. Mayor Nagin, by the way, was also very much supportive of that position. But again, I read that story, and maybe because of the times we're living in right now, we're reading every day and watching about this
About
El Salvador migrant who who's here, and now he's in El Salvador.
And about the basic underlying tenet of America that we say America has a lot of warts and all, but that is the underlying tenet. Here's hundreds of thousands of people who came over after a war as refugees, as evacuees or whatever, came, settled in because America had that promise. And a lot of them have realized that promise because they were allowed to be here.
Right.
It's what you said. Here's a hardworking guy who seems to not have any criminal record or any ties to anything, and has become a political pawn in a game of, I don't even know what this is we're trying to produce in this country at this point, of taking citizens. This is not even some person who's a alien who should be sent out of the country, and now he's just basically tied up in a whole hellacious system of injustice.
Well, to show how ridiculous this is, the U.S. attorney who went to court a week ago made the statement that we, the government, made a mistake. Okay?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's what he said. I heard, by the way,
right.
I'm not sure, I haven't seen the full story. He may have been fired today, by the way.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is really venturing into really dangerous territory when you could have a situation where somebody is put on a plane, taken to an absolutely horrendous place in El Salvador.
Right.
And yesterday was almost beyond credibility. You had the president of El Salvador,
Right.
along with President Trump in the White House. And President Trump says, well, we can't, even if we want to bring him back, we can't bring him back because he's an El Salvador citizen and he's in El Salvador. And then you had the president of El Salvador saying, well, what are we supposed to do? Smuggle them into the United States? I mean, let's be really honest here. If Trump in the United States wanted El Salvador,
he'd be back.
He'd be back.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not fooling anybody by that.
I mean, the El Salvadoran president literally acted like I couldn't find him if I wanted to. It's like it's just, and that's not true.
Right.
So it's just but it's very troubling because what is the background deal with El Salvador? They're being paid for taking these prisoners in. I mean, there was a hot mic moment with Trump and this guy, and he said, you need to build 5 more prisons. I mean, it's just becoming a business transaction, and that's not a way to deal with anybody.
Oh, that's really shocking.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, no,
given the way our government
everything's
has been doing.
transactional with this.
It's it's and look, this is for another date. I actually had an encounter with an MS-13 person in El Salvador about a decade ago. I'm fortunate to be here tonight. I will tell you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that another time. So I don't have any great love, but I do have respect for our system and our democracy and due process and all of the things that we stand for. And again, whether it's this situation, I will tell you one of the most difficult situations in the Jewish community right now is the deportation of some of the protesters.
Right. Yeah.
And it is causing a divide, I'll tell you, within our own community, because nobody wants anti-Semitism. I mean, people on campuses need to be safe, no matter if they're Palestinian or Israeli or Jewish or African American. Right. I mean, you have the right to be educated and to live in safety. But some of the stuff we're doing in the name of combating anti-Semitism is very alarming to a large part of my community. And it puts us in a really difficult, bind, I
understand. I mean, it's and everything's like that. I mean, everything's being twisted. I mean, literally, folks, if you haven't read 1984, the novel by George Orwell, you are living in 1984 now. The everything is up is down, backwards is forwards, and like you said, using things that are really serious, like issues of anti-Semitism and racism, and twisting them around to say this is why we're going to get rid of somebody because we feel like they shouldn't be here, and this is the excuse we're going to use, or whatever. I mean, and that's just not right.
Right. It's very dangerous.
Yes.
I would say that is and I think one reason that you have a division on this topic in the Jewish community is we know because of our own history and Carey, it has similarities to the African American experience.
Absolutely.
Is that when you go down that side and it becomes a slippery slope, while it may be okay right now, we may say, well, these are people that are, fighting against Jewish students. That the reality is a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it could be a completely different. And the one thing that's always protected Americans and people is that we have held on to civil liberties and due process, no matter how difficult it could be at times.
And just to tie it together, like you said, for the Black community and for any of our listeners as well, is to make sure that people understand these are the very types of things that were used in the early civil rights days to take people and literally disappear them within the country. They would go into jails and you couldn't get to them. You had no habeas corpus. You had nothing. Mm-hmm. You could hold somebody forever and then all of a sudden, they were dead in their jail cell. We don't know what happened. This is what's happening to this guy in El Salvador under the same kind of rules.
Yeah.
So that's a slippery slope for everybody.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Really is.
Well, why don't we take a break here? We're going to, on the other side, we're going to go local a little bit and talk about a big topic in the news. I know Gerard spent a couple hours talking about this. We're going to touch upon it today as well. 504-582-9422. We really would love to hear from you, your thoughts on any topic tonight. And we will be back in just a minute.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 a.m. and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to all day long.
New Orleans, are you ready? A fresh voice in the city is here, bringing you the beats, the culture, and the stories that matter. From local music and food to real talk on what's happening in the streets, we've got you covered. Stay tapped in. Follow us on all platforms at WBOK 1230 for the latest updates and exclusive content. Your city, your culture, your news. Don't just hear about it, be about it. Follow us at WBOK 1230 now.
Attention, WBOK listeners. Are you a fan of the station and want to show your support and style? Well, we've got some exciting news for you. Introducing the official WBOK merchandise, the perfect way to wear your love for the station. Whether you're a longtime listener or a new fan, we've got something for everyone. Head to WBOK1230.com now and grab your WBOK gear before it's gone. When you buy WBOK merch, you're not just getting quality items, you're supporting the station you love.
On the next edition of The Way Forward, we continue the Advancing Southeast Louisiana series with a conversation with the Chancellor of Southern University at New Orleans, Dr. James Ammons. Join me on The Way Forward this weekend on WBOK 1230 or streaming live at WBOK1230.com and the Play ODAP. It's The Way Forward with Eddie Francis, Saturday at 3 p.m. on WBOK. What New Orleans is talking about.
WBOK online at WBOK1230.com. The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Filko and Carey Grant.
All right, we're back. And again, I'd love to hear from you, 504-582-9422. Thank you to Gerard Stevens. He has really been covering the police promotion issue at length and getting in real depth. We're not going to get into that level of it. Although I do want to tell everybody, tomorrow night we hope to have at 6 o'clock Eric Hessler, who is the attorney for the Police Association of New Orleans, one of the unions that is involved in the promotion issue, and we'll be able to talk a little bit with Eric about his thoughts on what happened. But the reason this is a hot topic right now is it was in the newspaper today, and the headline is Arbiter New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell leaned on police chief in promotions dispute. So obviously it was a head catching headline. And this is we've talked about this in past shows. It's not an easy issue to understand because there are so many facets to it. And talk a little bit about that. But I think what Carey and I want to do after that is kind of look at it from a bigger picture and what this issue looks like. But basically to summarize, if I could do it, is there were promotions going on for different positions within NOPD.
Right.
There was a procedure established for the captain's position.
And major.
And
these promotions hadn't been done for a long time. Probably 10 years, probably.
And procedures were established. Process went on. And somewhere before the process ended, there was some controversy that was raised relative to the fairness of the process. The process had a couple parts to it. There was a testing process.
Yeah.
There was also kind of a historical background, based upon a person's track record and any issues with discipline and things like that. And again, I'm summarizing this to give us a Cliff Notes version of it. But basically, the process was stopped at a certain point.
Yeah.
And the police chief paused it. And then after a period of time, it was announced that, no, the process is going to continue. And ultimately, just in the recent times, the promotions were granted.
Right.
And because of all of the stuff that went on, the Civil Service Commission got involved. There was a request for a hearing. And just over the last couple of days, a full, evidentiary hearing of the Civil Service Commission was held. And, the commission investigation and hearing was supported by Fraternal Order of Police, which is one of the unions, and the Black Order of Police.
Right.
And as best as I've been told and understand, there was no daylight between these two unions. They were all on the same page in all of this. So here's where it gets a little muddy, I guess I would say. And I will tell you, I've had some discussions today off the record with some people in the know. And we'll have a chance to talk to Eric Hessler tomorrow night.
Right.
But what I was told was is that there was some concern by the mayor that there was some unfairness issues in the process.
Right.
All right. And that she had asked Police Chief Kirkpatrick to intervene, to stop the process so it could be looked at, before it went further. Now, I will tell you, the story in the paper today brings up kind of a side issue to it, and that the mayor's motivation was more to promote a friend of hers, another officer, Sabrina Richardson. Okay. I've been told, at least off the record, that may not have been the case, that the motivation may very well have been unfairness in the process, not relative to any particular person, but some unfairness of how they rated this, and that's why there needed to be a stop. I don't know. I'm not there. I am not part of the calls of the meeting, so I can only speculate as everybody else did. What I don't understand is when they held the hearing last week, if that was the mayor's position, then why take the fifth? I mean, why? Because look, there's supposed to be an inference of non-guilt.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's common reaction. And when a person takes the fifth, you kind of feel like there's something you're hiding.
Right.
And I just don't really understand if, in fact, this was a legitimate issues, concerns, even if they were wrong.
Yeah.
Say it. I mean, there's nothing wrong in saying that I have some concerns about the process. I want to make sure it's a fair process. Let's stop it for right now, do an investigation. So I don't know why you would not just say that publicly as opposed to taking the fifth. Because what the fifth suggests is that you are hiding something.
Right.
That you did stop it in order to help promote somebody else that you wanted in that position. So we'll learn a little bit more about that tomorrow. The bigger concern, Carey, that you and I have talked about with this issue is, number one, it's another kind of bad black eye on the city, on the mayor, on a lot of things. I mean, we want to be a city where police look at us as fair, that we judge people based upon their merits.
Yes.
And this just puts a cloud over that. And at a time when we're, desperately needing new officers at NOPD, desperately needing to retain so we don't have large attrition.
Yes.
You wonder how the rank and file feel about something like this.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty evident that it sent some shockwaves through the rank and file. As you said, Arnie, to go back to the beginning of what you said, if it's unusual, and I can tell you from all the time I was in city government, it's unusual for mayors to become deeply involved in the promotion process in any department. That's just the truth. It's a paranoia, it's a fallacy of people. The mayor's like pouring over all these things all the time of who's getting promoted. But the process is built so that you don't really have that kind of influence with the assessment centers, with the ratings, there's so many steps that you have to take to even qualify for a test, particularly in police. And let me say this as well. Police is one of the first departments that ever had a consent decree in the city of New Orleans because it was about racial makeup of the force, racial promotions and everything. It's called the Williams Consent Decree. When I first got there, it was in effect. One of the first sergeant exams that they gave when I was there was based on the consent decree to make sure that blacks and other people of color and everybody were treated fairly and could get a chance of being sergeants, being whatever. And it helped the department move forward. But it also was, as you said, very much a morale issue because people thought it wasn't going to go right. It was going to be handled wrong way back then. And there was a lot of issues about people's idea of like, if this happens, I'm leaving the force or whatever, because it's not fair. So something like this, as you said, for somebody to ask about, is the process being handled fairly, which everybody wants fairness in these things. Everybody, I think us and Gerard and everybody on the same page about that part. Like you said, FOP and BOP, which sometimes don't see eye to eye on things and represent different people as well.
They do.
But they do. And I think that the issue that I'm driving at is that from an officer, and I'm a low officer on the totem pole, I just joined the department or wherever, if I see that people at the highest levels are being treated unfairly, if I've done all the work, if I've been a good officer all those years and I get all the check marks, take the test and do well, if I get knocked out because of political reasons, then I don't want to be a cop much longer. I can tell you that. I know people who came up through the force, and I'm sure that the younger people are exactly the same.
Yeah, well, I think, and that really is the bigger issue.
That's the huge issue.
Is, most people in New Orleans, are worried right now about the cost of living and other things. They're not worried about the inside baseball of police promotion.
But police is really a career. People have to understand, you don't really, literally, I think if you asked anybody who's a young police officer, you don't become a cop because you just want to be it for a couple of minutes. So it's a stepping stone to something.
That's right.
Usually police is a career thing. You're going to be in it for a while, and you would like to rise up in the ranks if you can.
And you want to make sure, that if you join the force, that that
if you
you're
want
going to
that
have a fair
opportunity,
chance.
exactly.
That there's not going to be bias. There's not going to be political intervention. All of that. I think that is the bigger story of this. We got to call it Pop Jones. Pop, how are you tonight?
Doing great, fellas.
All right.
Thanks for taking my call. How was your weekend?
Great.
It was wonderful.
That's a good thing.
How was yours?
Wonderful. The Lord woke me up this morning and
Well-
gave me some more time.
There you go.
It's always
Yeah,
good
I'm
when that
thankful for
happens. What's going on, Pop?
Well, look, what I wanted to ask y'all, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I'm a follower of the great John Lewis. If you see something, say something. So I just ask hard questions because I'm learning. I'm old, but I'm still learning. You think, just a couple of questions, do you think they would like for the mayor to resign before her time is up, or is she helping them? That's one question. Two questions, And I see, look like they're trying to stop OT from running. Could y'all address that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pop. I appreciate it, and let me see if we can answer both of those areas. Look, I think everybody that's listened to my voice the last 4 or 5 months, I mean, you know that I'm not a big fan of Mayor Cantrell. I do not think she's.
Well,
but that's okay. But let me finish. But
yeah,
that's
you could have your opinion.
it's my opinion, and everybody's entitled to it.
Exactly.
But I also think it's important, whether it be the mayor, the city council, all of our elected, that they be evaluated based upon facts and based upon truth and honesty.
Is that everybody or just the mayor?
No, I think everybody.
Everybody.
I think any elected official.
That's what I wanted to know.
Deserves the right to be evaluated based upon what they do and what the real facts are. I don't sense. Look, we are 4 months away from a mayoral election. I don't think I've not heard of any desire to, have Mayor Cantrell booted out of office or removed. I don't think there's any effort in that. Are people, discouraged with everything going on in the city right now? Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I think our city services are lacking, and it's cost a lot to live here, and people want to see new leadership both at the mayor level and at the council level that's going to bring them to a better place. As it relates to Oliver, no, Oliver has every right to run for mayor as any other candidate. He's put his hat in the ring now. He's out there campaigning. He's got an agenda. So I think we're going to be looking at not only a very spirited election the next 4 or 5 months, but a really important election.
And also, you have a lot of these people that don't have elected positions, but they seem to have more to say about what's going on than anybody. I don't even know who hired these people.
Well,
you want me to call a name?
Who are we talking about, Pop?
What you talk about, Gary Netchie, or that's how you pronounce his name?
Oh, Rafi Goenetchi. Yeah, for the Metropolitan Crime Commission.
He seems to be in the picture all the time.
Well, I would say this: there are certain people in our community, by virtue of, in his case, an organization that's been around. Right. I mean, there's many people like that. There's a lot of people that weigh in with their opinions. And, I think the reason we're doing a show like this and Gerard does a show like this is, our responsibility as members of the media and talk show radio is to try to filter out, what's truthful, what maybe is not so truthful, and then let you all, the public, formulate your own opinions as you go into the ballot box.
Some of those things, like somebody like him, is a person who the press always goes to, which makes it seem as though he has more opinions than he has because he's always asked about different issues. And I think that causes some of that point of view. And it's like you said, Arnie, we have to have counterweights to all points of view as well.
I mean, if we've learned anything from what's happening in our country right now, it is we should be willing and able to do our own investigation and formulate our own opinions and determine, what's BS and what's real, and then come up with conclusions. And, that's what we're going to try to do, when we do radio shows like this, is present to you what we know, bring people on air who are involved in it so that they could tell their version of it. And then you formulate your own opinion, Doc.
See, we got one politician, I think has been in politics about 20 years, and I don't think they've really done anything for the people. But all of a sudden, they're finding this wrong, that wrong, and I don't know of anything they've done for the people. But now, they all of a sudden they're running for mayor, which I know everybody that was right. I guess Putin, if he was here in the country, he could run for mayor too. I guess I don't know how that works.
Well, again, people are going to have different positions, different perceptions. We bring our life experience into this. You can't throw that out.
Right.
You're gonna like certain people
like
that
they're
I may not
Americans.
like,
Their
and vice
life
versa.
experience should be, with the people.
Well,
New Orleans.
it should be, but
See, their life experience. Explain that. What you mean?
But we all bring different backgrounds and histories, and I mean we look at things through different lenses. I mean that's natural, for people. But what I would recommend people do more than anything, as you're looking, let's use the mayor's race. You should be evaluating each candidate starting now because they're in it. I mean, they're all in it full time.
Yes.
Exactly.
What are their plans? How is it going to affect your life?
Right.
How is it going to affect the city of New Orleans? And who brings the best opportunity to move this community forward? That should be the criteria.
What have you done in the past?
Yeah. Yes.
You got to look at the past. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
they've been see, like you, I don't know you that well, but I know you've been a council person. You dealt with sports, all kind of stuff like that. I know a little bit about your background. The other young man, I'm not familiar with him.
well, I'll just say this in close. I mean, look, I think if we're looking at the mayor's race, of course, council races are also important.
Yes.
Sheriff's race. There's a lot of important races. But on the mayor's race, the top three candidates right now all have a history. Yes. I mean, they're all elected officials.
And they're all taking stances.
And they've all taken stances both in the past and now also in their vision of the future.
Right.
We'll do this, obviously, the station will do this over the next 4 or 5 months, is we'll dig into some of their visions, but it's important that you formulate your own opinions, what you hear from it. Just in the last few days, they all brought out kind of their vision on economic development.
Right.
Each of them had a little bit of a different slant to it, and if you put them all together, by the way, it could really be good,
something.
okay? But, it's important to understand where they come at from economic development or crime prevention or whatever the topic is, and ask them the tough questions. I mean, if you're going to run for office, especially if you're going to be mayor of the city of New Orleans, you got to be willing to take on some difficult questions and give honest, substantive answers to those questions.
I have one question I could ask any of them, especially those that have been in office. Where have you been? That would be a great question.
Yeah, that's a legitimate question. Elected officials have a habit sometimes of disappearing.
Right.
They get elected.
Once they get elected.
And then you'll see him or
when
her
it's time to run
4
again.
years from
They'll
now.
come up.
I think
sound like they're going to give you the world. My question is, where have you been?
Well, yes, that unfortunately is a trait that many politicians have, is to promise the world and deliver the neighborhood, okay, at best. So, but Pop, that's a good point, is that I think one of the evaluations people have to make is, all right, I supported a particular person in the past. Have they lived up to what they promised? And if the answer is yes, I think you want a person like that continuing.
forward,
And if you don't, I think you may want to look in a different direction.
Right. Yes.
So I'm sure, I tell you what, it's a beautiful thing that y'all took my call, and you really opened my eyes.
That's why I want you to support Carey Grant. He hasn't declared yet, but he's thinking about some office right now.
Okay, Mr. Grant.
Oh, I don't know.
Or maybe Gerard Stevens. I know he's talked about office.
I'll know next time, Mr. Grant. You from New Orleans?
Yes, I'm born and bred. Worked for the city for 37 years. So yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Pop, Carey worked under how many mayors, Carey?
6 mayors.
6 mayors. So he
including
is
the
truly
current.
seen it all.
Yes.
So he been around now.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. He certainly
Hallelujah. Ain't that something?
Pop, thank you for calling.
Thank you for calling.
We'll talk to you later in the week.
Talk to y'all.
All right. Be well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's, look, I don't like to demonize. I will tell you in New Orleans, I'm going to put Chicago in that court because I know both these cities are 2 of the most political cities
Absolutely.
in the world,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
And politics can get dirty. They can get difficult. People want to come in with their own thoughts and opinions. I don't like to demonize. I mean, we talked about Rafael Goyeneche. I know Rafael a little bit. I would put a group like BGR in that category.
Yeah.
People want to demonize because they put out a position on this or that or that.
Right.
I don't do that. I don't want to do that. Because I think when you do that, you divide. Now, is it fair to evaluate their conclusions,
Exactly.
their reports? Yeah.
Yeah.
See if there's any deficiency, any holes.
That's what I meant, because he gets quoted and he asked by different organs to be a guest or, to do an interview or what do you think of what just happened, like this thing we're talking about with the mayor, with the police thing. So I think people think his influence is bigger than it is. And it's like you said, you have to evaluate what he's saying. You have to evaluate everything everybody's saying, because whenever somebody says something, use that information to find out what your truth is in all issues, because that's part of the problem now is there's a lot of edges and leanings in information that we get that it's not straightforward. We don't have Walter Cronkite who just reports the straight news to us anymore.
No, we don't. We just don't. Social media has become
the news
for a lot of people.
Very, very biased and algorithmic.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're going to come back. We'll continue this discussion because it's really interesting to talk about New Orleans politics. 504-582-9422. We will be back in just a minute.
On last week's From the Press Box to Press Row with Donald Ware.
Christian Ings, NCAA dunk champion.
It all happened so fast, like the crowd went crazy, and I was just like, I just did that. And then when they came across that it was on Get Up, that's when they really hit me like, yo, you might have did something just now.
Wait a minute, I gotta rewind that back. He said, I may have just done something. You think so, Christian?
I feel like I've done that dunk so many times in my lifetime. Like, I didn't know that it was gonna go that viral. I just I got bounced. I just wanted to show it off. This is my last game act. I gotta give them something.
From the Press Box to Press Row is one of the hottest sports talk shows in the country. Join Donald each week as he takes you on a journey through the world of HBCU sports and pro sports and interviews with top sports and entertainment figures. That's From the Press Box to Press Row.
Fridays on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about. That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
New Orleans, are you ready? A fresh voice in the city is here. bringing you the beats, the culture, and the stories that matter. From local music and food to real talk on what's happening in the streets. We've got you covered. Stay tapped in. Follow us on all platforms at WBOK 1230 for the latest updates and exclusive content. Your city, your culture, your news. Don't just hear about it, be about it. Follow WBOK 1230 now.
Get in on the conversation at 504-582-9422.
The Arnie and Carey Show with Arnie Philco and Carey Grant.
We're back for the last 10 minutes. And, Carey, you can't escape politics in New Orleans.
No,
I mean, it's a season.
Your red
it's a
beans
sport.
and rice on Monday is politics. That's the seasoning.
And, I was with at an event. By the way, I was kudos. I was at an event, ribbon cutting for 18th Ward this morning.
Oh, okay, good.
And for people that don't know, 18th Ward is serving literally thousands, tens of thousands of New Orleans youth in different sports and recreation. They have, over the last 5 years, just emerged as a major player in this area. So today they opened a new facility in Holly Grove.
Okay.
And it was really beautiful and lots of people. And so I just want to, Lowry Cruz, who's the CEO, keep doing the great work. It's really important what you're doing. And their summer program is opening soon, in a few weeks. And I was told that they've sold out almost everything right now.
Wow, that's great.
So, but call 18th Ward, go Google them if you've got a son or daughter and would like them to be in a high quality program. But the season has started. I was with one of the district council member candidates this morning, and obviously, council candidates are all over the city. Our mayoral candidates are out and about. Putting out platforms and websites and vision. And I think that's really good. I mean, this is a really important election.
Yeah. There's a lot to do in 6 months. So
it is.
There's a lot to do.
And, it started early. I mean,
it started early.
We're usually, post-Labor Day, sometimes they really kick. I mean, obviously, these started post-Mardi Gras. Right. Maybe in some cases, pre-Mardi Gras.
Pre-Mardi Gras,
but I think that's good because I think it's really important. There'll be a lot of, certainly in the mayor's race, there'll be a lot of forums and opportunities to come listen to the candidates.
And I think more people will do that. I think this time it's going to be every one of these races is going to have a lot of attention.
I agree.
I really believe that this time it'll be a lot different.
I agree. This reminds me, again, it's not perfectly a comparison, but reminds me of the 2010 mayor's race. There was a lot of discontent in the city. Okay. I mean, I think if people are honest about it, they will say that. And, people wanted new, they wanted to hear vision. They wanted to know where the city was going to go. Many people were deciding, am I even going to make New Orleans my future? Because of Katrina. I think there's some similarity to that is people, as I've said, are a bit discouraged and, they want to know what the candidates' thoughts are, how they're going to make their lives better, not the candidates' lives, but the public's lives better, and specifically, what will they do? And also, Pop asked a good question because a lot of these folks are in office. What have you done?
Right.
It's one thing to have vision and say, I'm going to do, it's like a State of the Union. If you ever listen to State of the Union, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A.
Right.
All right. That's all great. Now let's get to
what have you done?
Brass tacks. What have you done the last couple of years here? And, and I think a more informed electorate, will be asking those questions.
One thing that happened with New Orleans, particularly after Katrina, was that people became much more engaged. And I think that kind of lost a little bit of that over the last couple of elections. You could see that. But I think that people are very concerned from a national level, state level, everything. And everything about politics is really local. And these races are really important to people, as you said, because people are making life decisions now. And, some of these underlying themes are very, very concerning, like population loss and the like, and various different things. And I think people really want to know that you are going to work every day. You're going to actually put forth some effort. And like Pop said, it was a very good point. Some of these people, because you have track records, what was your track record even close to some of the things that you talked about doing? And how does it relate to you? And this is going to be a neighborhood-driven race because every neighborhood in this city is very strong and has different needs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that being able to speak to 40 different groups about 40 different things is going to be a really challenging thing. But I think that's what's going to happen to these people. If you go to a forum in the Lower Ninth Ward, it's going to be a lot different from a forum uptown.
Oh, absolutely.
And it always is, but I think this time it'll be even more different.
I agree with that. And look, this is not going to be an easy job for whoever gets elected mayor. It is a city right now that financially is having some distress.
Yeah.
We don't know what the level of federal or state money will be coming down the pike in the future years because of what's going on, in our own country right now. You have a community that doesn't have a lot of patience, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, they're sick and tired of infrastructure, roads, streets, sewage and water, you name it.
Yeah.
Nord, whatever the topic is, people want to see a different. There was a great article over the weekend, Carey, I forgot the author, who really said the major criteria should be who can manage. And the key word was management. And, who has the ability to be a CEO of the city going forward, to hire good people,
right?
To keep good people,
stay on them and make them do their work,
to communicate
well,
so that, we should have transparency. One of the things that candidate Moreno put out is that, we should know, like for Nord Parks, if they're working on them, if we're still waiting on, we should know exactly how much is needed, what the timetable is for finishing it, who the contractor is, all of that. That shouldn't be that hard to put together.
And you mentioned earlier about technology, particularly everybody has phones and iPads and whatever, but you can really communicate with people now, and technology and can keep people up to date about everything. I mean, you can count how many. We know how many street lights we have. They're all marked with numbers. You can have those things in people's grasp so they can know what's really going on, and you can keep track of what's going on.
But how refreshing that would be if you
knew
that's
what people need.
No, it is.
People will calm down if they felt like we had some control over this. I think what we are nationally and locally and statewide too is, I read this great phrase this weekend, we're in crisis fatigue. People are just tired of always being in crisis.
Yeah.
And there's another crisis every day. So some normalcy, at least at home, would be really refreshing for people.
Bad news for everybody, at least on the national front, we ain't getting normalcy. We're lucky if it's only day by day. Usually it's hour by hour.
Every 3 hours there's some new crisis.
Carey, I just want to end the show with a couple things that are not so good from a national perspective.
Sure.
First of all, there was an arson bombing at the governor's residence in Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro.
Awful.
Absolutely atrocious. Nobody really knows the motivation yet. It may very well have been just a gentleman that suffered from mental illness, but just a terrible situation. And the other thing is, I know, I was going to say this when you said people have to be accountable. The one thing Trump is pretty good at is it's almost like he checks off. I promised this. I promised that. I did this. I did.
Right.
Well, the one thing that he did promise that he's failed at is Ukraine.
Yeah.
And just over the weekend on Palm Sunday, there was an absolutely brutal bombing by Russia of a Ukrainian city. Hundreds of people were killed and injured, some children. Absolutely nothing to do with the military or the war. Just an evil effort to kill human beings. And, my message to President Trump, and I'm going to stay in this as long as I could stand it, you made a promise you were going to end this war.
Right.
Damn it, end the war. Because people are being killed right now on all sides. There has to be a just resolution. And it's time you get tough on Russia, because that's where the problem is. It's not in Ukraine. It's not on Zelensky. It's on Vladimir Putin and Russia. And if you want to live up to a major promise of your campaign, then find a way to end this war and get them to a ceasefire. And I'll get off my soapbox on that.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, and hopefully, and I there are some signs of more positivity in the Middle East. Hopefully, the same thing, maybe can take place in the Middle East, because the loss of life on all sides is something that nobody should want. Nobody that's humane should want to see, Israelis or Lebanese or Gazans, lose their life, Carey.
Yes.
All right. Well, then on that note, there are so many topics. I got to bring in every day, these notes that we could talk for hours. We need more hours. That's Jeff Thomas, WBOK. Come on, give Carey and I more hours here. Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. We will be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock talking about whatever issues come our way and your way. We love to hear from you. Everybody have a great evening.
Have a great evening. Good night. Talk to you tomorrow.